Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And thank you for joining today's webinar, Level Up Your FinOps Maturity. And today we're going to do a deep dive into Ternary's latest platform enhancements. My name is Marie Burke. I'm Director of Product Marketing at Ternary. I joined the team just a few months ago in January, but I've been in the FinOps market for about 7.5 years now, always on the vendor side of the house. So I'm very excited about all of the opportunity and innovation that Ternary is continuing to develop. And today I am joined by my co-presenter, AJ Peter. AJ, would you like to give an introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone. My name is AJ Peter. I started my FinOps journey in 2014 at a company called Cloudability. So I've been in the FinOps space almost 10 years now. And my journey at Ternary started March of last year as a product lead here. So super excited to show off the stuff that we've put together and the direction that we're heading.
Great, thanks. So yeah, funny enough, actually, we're two sides of the incumbent solution coin here, Cloud Health and Cloudability alumni. But we are very excited about Ternary. And so let's get started. Ternary at a glance. Our company is very closely aligned to the FinOps Foundation as a premier member. Our founders were early FinOps practitioners at LiveRamp who decided to develop their own solution due to gaps in the market in terms of capabilities and clouds that are being supported. Ternary has already started to implement Focus. There are a lot of exciting announcements about Focus 1.0 GA at FinOpsX recently. AJ and I were both at the conference. I think looking at the chat here, we may have met some of you folks there, which is great. And we're also a FinOps certified platform by the foundation. Many vendors in the space, calculate their cloud spend under management on an annual basis to kind of show the growth and maturity of the products. So Ternary now manages more than 7 billion in cloud spend under management. That is across 5 cloud providers. We have visibility for Amazon, Azure, Google, Alibaba, and OCI. I think I hit all 5 there. And we really focus on having feature parity across the main 3 providers. AJ will dive a bit more into this later on in the presentation. We built for Google first, but have since expanded to all leading clouds in the market. And we have some industry recognition as well. We are heavily investing in AI and machine learning capabilities. I know you can't go anywhere without hearing AI nowadays. I totally understand. You can't go to a conference, a webinar, so it has to be a mention, the hot topic of the past few years and into the future. So a little bit about Ternary there. We are a FinOps certified platform focused on helping organizations establish cloud cost transparency, improve cost and usage efficiency, and foster communication across teams. But before we dive into the new features, I want to touch on Ternary's strategy. And so what really attracted me to Ternary as a prospective employee was the two-pronged approach for managed service providers and enterprise customers. And AJ, I'd love to get your thoughts on Ternary's strategy and go-to-market approach.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a kind of a core belief that a tool can solve many use cases and issues for customers. And there's really kind of 2 primary use cases in the FinOps space. The first one being managed service providers for resellers of cloud services, being able to merely understand and see what their tenants are spending in cloud and kind of help them optimize their spend. The second one is going to be the enterprise or the direct customers who are, trying to either do show back, charge back within their companies to really allocate their costs and then kind of, get into the rate optimization, accurate forecasting and budget planning, just the FinOps life cycle. So what the way that we kind of designed Ternary is to kind of best fit both of those use cases in a, both build and buy strategy where Ternary is going to be able to do, a majority of the, the day-to-day tasks and difficult heavy lifting that you have to do when running workloads in cloud or migrating from on-premise to cloud, with a little bit of room where customers can custom fit it or tailor it to their exact needs or use cases. So the direction we're heading is to try to be able to do more and more things for customers so that they don't have to implement or have much code themselves. But just with the nature of what we do and ever-changing landscape of cloud service providers billing, I think there's always going to be a need for companies to have a little bit of customization on their own to be able to fit their exact use case.
Yeah, definitely. And I find that managed service provider support is truly unique in the market. There are not many vendors who do offer a multi-tenanted platform the way Ternary does. And so let's dive into our new MSP functionality to start. AJ, I'd love for
Yeah.
you to walk through our new Ternary MSP level dashboard and go through some of our latest enhancements.
Absolutely. So here we're looking at just kind of the general dashboard that you're going to be presented with when you access our MSP dashboard, which is going to give you a breakdown of kind of all of the customers that your portfolio represents. So here you can just see a high level view of cost by tenant with some quick customizable date selections. This current view is looking at a week. You can change it to be, day or month if you would like. As you scroll down, you'll get the table data. You can see your monthly trends, which is going to give the last 3 months of cost data by tenant, with your month over month delta, change in dollar and percentage difference to just better understand, how their costs are changing over time. Um, you can, of course, change the sorting by the different columns here. All of the data is exportable via CSV. We also have our other features that tie into Ternary, such as anomaly detection. You can see top alerts by all of your tenants. So, if you need to go and reach out to them about large anomalies, just make sure that they're kind of aware if it's something that they didn't see themselves, to kind of help you better manage your relationship. The next section is going to go over kind of savings and utilization. Similarly, you can sort by top recommendations. So these are going to be both right sizing or optimization recommendations. And then below that, you're going to see your rate or commitment discount optimizations, so that you can better serve what their needs are going to be as far as cost savings recommendations. And this just shows a nice breakdown of all of your tenants again, so that way you can quickly identify who's going to be probably your best customer to have a conversation with. The last section here, or the next section, is going to be the configuration status. So we update this daily, and we'll identify if there's been any change to the configuration that could prevent us getting updated billing or usage data. So you can reach out to them and have them proactively update those permissions. The last section here is going to be around user activity, so you can see who's logged in, the last time they logged in, and if what their the purpose for accessing those different tenants. So if you have internal employees that are accessing accounts, just to make sure that you're checking in on those accounts, and how often and what times they're doing that. Here is going to be the kind of configuration portal. So if you want to go through and create a new tenant, you can easily do that and go in and give them their specified name, and you can just generate that with a single field entry. From there, you'll be able to go in and edit and view users, as well as if you want to drill in and access the tenant yourself, you can do that from this menu. If you need to deactivate or inactivate a tenant for any reason, you can go ahead and do that from this page as well. And then here's going to be kind of the list of users per tenant, and the ability to add new users, whether internally or externally, and then give them a specified role, which is going to be their permissions that they have within that tenant.
That's great. So it looks like for MSP partners, there's really a holistic view across their entire FinOps services business within the Ternary platform. And I see here there are different roles that have been added. Can you touch on the different roles in the platform a little bit as well?
Yeah, definitely. So the different roles are going to be, we have a Turner, or we have a platform, or sorry, not a platform. We have a tenant admin to give you access to everything that you need as far as like a partnership goes. The other, permission tiers are going to be like basic, full access user, and admin. So depending on what level of permission they need, whether that's just cost visibility, if they should be able to create, add, edit reports, add, edit users, as well as add and configure clouds. So we have those permission sets, defined that way, which can be edited at any time. It looks like we're going to jump
Fantastic.
into billing rules engine next. So this is going to be around kind of our re-rating. This is a huge use case for MSPs. So the ability to go through and specify groups of cost and re-rate them. So here we're looking at an uplift charge of 10% on compute specifically. So you're going to go and create a rule. You're going to go and add your filter set. So it looks like we're going to do it by category and say compute. So this is going to look at all compute costs for the specified tenant or all of your tenants. And it's going to be a re-rate and increase of 10%. So that way you can make sure that these costs are only visible to the tenant at their level. But when you're viewing from your side, you'll be able to see what the actual cost is. So this visibility is obfuscated from their view. So that way that they're seeing the cost that you want them to see. When you're going through and configuring the filters, it's going to show if you can specify very specific line items. This is looking at a SKU ID, but if you want to just do a kind of a contains blanket credits, you can select that bottom option, which will go through, and any SKU description that contains credit will now apply. And rather than specifying, I only want this to go to maybe a handful of tenants, you can say actually apply to all of my tenants under management, which is a nice option. So if you have a set rate that you want to apply to everyone, it's really easy to configure. You can also go through and say you have custom rates by tenant. You can do that as well by their tenant name. Once you've done that, you'll go through and you'll just apply that re-rating, which will go in process. There's a status check on the page to tell you how that job is doing. Generally, it doesn't take much time at all, but that way, for some reason it fails, or if you need to make an update, you can go back and check it out.
Great. They're really exciting to see the MSP developments. And for the folks on Zoom here today, the MSP capabilities is really a superset of the functionality of the Ternary platform. So you'll see on the left hand here in the navigation, it is a module that is added to the navigation pane. And so now that we've looked at kind of a holistic picture from an MSP standpoint, looking at a FinOps services business, let's start to hone in a bit on different capabilities of the Ternary platform that can be useful to both MSPs as well as enterprise customers. And so looking at the state of FinOps 2024 data, 41.3% of FinOps practitioners identified that accurate forecasting of spend is a key priority for their organization this year. We heard a lot about forecasting at the FinOps X conference as well, and it seems to be a struggle still for many of these organizations. So AJ, curious on your thoughts on where the gaps are in the market with forecasting and why no one's really kind of nailed that down yet from a feature set standpoint.
Yeah, great question. So, I attended many of the talks at FinOps X. Almost every customer was talking, or every presenter rather, was talking about forecasting and just how much work it is to get really an accurate forecast of your business's spend. This is going to be, I think, a multi-role kind of need where finance is typically driving the need for this, but it's kind of similar to just FinOps in general. It's going to be an all company kind of ask, right, to be able to accurately track and spend what accurately track and predict what your spend is going to be. And the cloud service providers, I think, have leveled up a lot in this area, as well as some of the third-party tooling. But a lot of that is really just going to be trend-based forecasting, where you're going to be able to say, hey, this is what we've been spending based on whatever our look back window or look back period is, and based on that, we're going to use some linear regression model to project out what your cost is going to be. But that's really only part of the picture. There's I think a driver-based forecast is largely unpresent, I think, in the current tooling space, which is the direction that Ternary is heading, to be able to allow customers to specify what their individual drivers are for their business, to be able to better, more accurately track what their forecast is going to look like. So we want to be able to provide the best forecasting possible, as well as tracking that over time. So once you've created a forecast, being able to see, 2-3 months down the line, how your spend is tracking against what you've put together. So here we're looking at a daily current month view. And I think one of the things that we wanted to really provide here is the ability to customize what you're forecasting. So this can be different depending on where you sit in the business. So what a lot of trend-based forecasts do is just look at your kind of overall spend and say, this is what you're going to be able to, this is what we're predicting you're going to spend based on a couple key categories. But here you can really break down and filter into a specific business unit, a tag or a label, to see what your current cost is month to date, and then what your cost is the trend of your cost for the next month is going to look like. So this allows customers to be able to specify, I'm only on business unit A, right? I only care about my particular business unit's cost, and I want to see what that trend is going to look like, to see my current spends, what the delta is going to look like, and maybe the categories that represent what are my largest, spend drivers there. We also allow the ability to filter by particular vendors. So this is going to be a multi-cloud view by default. But if you really just want to drill in onto maybe Azure spend, you can do that quickly and understand what the top drivers for Azure are going to be. And then you'll be able to see your delta spend and comparison to previous month. This just, what you're seeing here too is a quick filtering of, if you want to just take something out of the chart, to be able to see what the other costs are, you can do that easily. And you can also export this data to get a CSV of your information if you want to, have a hard copy of it or make it, any other manipulations. But the idea here is just to get a good view of your current month forecast with, better understanding of what's going to happen. And the next iteration for this is allowing more customization into, what customers are spending, again, with a driver-based approach, as well as being able to, not only manually adjust whether, if you have some other driver that's going to come in that may be a static dollar amount, if maybe there's been an acquisition, or if you know that you're going to be bringing some workload from an on-premise data center, you'll be able to manually put that information in to more accurately see what your cost is going to look like. And that approach will be kind of a monthly view with the ability to span, up to 24 months. And, I guess as little as 3 months to be able to, to better identify what your cost is going to look like, and hopefully have a good communication with your finance team so that they're aware if your costs are trending up. Usually the direction that costs go is up. So it's better to, understand that early so that you can start to do things like rate optimization or, cost management to prevent from having a large increase in your bill to make your finance team unhappy.
Yeah, that's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to the roadmap on forecasting and delivering on those features. Ternary has a very rapid rate of innovation, so I'm sure I'll see it in just a few sprints. One thing I do want to call out from the demo video as well is some of the language we're using. So as we continue to implement Focus, you'll notice terminology changes such as vendor as opposed to cloud. So really adopting that standardized schema as well. But AJ, since you mentioned optimization, I want to go back to the state of FinOps data for a minute and touch on the top two priorities from this year's report. So 50.3% reducing waste or unused resources, 43.3% managing commitment-based discounts. Even though, FinOps is really about helping businesses make money, we're still seeing that a lot of organizations are focused on the cost savings component. And so once you have that cost transparency and you're focused on forecasting and budget management, you also want to be able to improve efficiency and achieve savings. And so I'd love to hear more about what Ternary's been doing on the optimization side of things and what capabilities the platform has.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we can take a look at, so we've put together what we call insights pages, which is going to be, a drill into a specific service by vendor to understand what the cost of that service is, as well as an optimization component. So what's kind of the low hanging fruit that you have to be able to action on to save, within ideally minutes, but sometimes those, actions can take a little bit longer. So here you're able to see a breakdown of Azure compute costs, to understand at the the project level and then the specific resource level what the utilization of each instance is, how much that's costing you. And from there, you'll be able to get an optimization recommendation for things like underutilized resources or right sizing or orphan and abandoned instances, things like that, which we'll see here in a second. But this initial view is just going to be kind of a high level, drill down into that specific service to get you a better understanding of what your costs are today. Here you can take a look at the optimization. So there's 430 optimization recommendations with about $58,000 in potential savings. When you drill into a particular recommendation, you'll see a statement about why we're providing this recommendation with the detailed information around what the usage is, what the usage could be, and how much you would save if you were to action on that recommendation. And the bottom recommendation there is going to be, we recommend that you switch this to a more flexible, cost-effective instance, which is this machine type. From there, we've provided an in-app ticketing system, which we call Ternary Case Manager. And from there, you'll be able to go ahead and select a specific resource. And this does link directly to Jira. So if you're using Jira Cloud, you can integrate it there. That way, engineers are going to be able to see the potential actions assigned to them directly in their kind of native ticketing system. So you select this, create a case within Ternary, and maybe your FinOps team or whoever's using Ternary can manage that case within Ternary, which will then be updated directly in Jira. So it's just easier case management and tracking for those pending optimization actions. Here, it looks like we're just going to take a quick look at, the Kubernetes for Azure. Here you can get, detailed cost breakdown. It's worth calling out that we are agentless, so you don't need to install an additional agent to be able to get this Kubernetes monitoring or optimization recommendations, which is, I think, a nice add, different from other tools in the space. And then you'll be able to also, one of the things that I like we have is you can snooze recommendations. So if you know that something is kind of like a fail safe or something that has to be running and you can't shut it down, you can snooze those recommendations. So that's not going to be tracked against your pending savings or actions. Next up, we got our kind of committed discounts. So similar to optimization recommendations, this is going to be more your rate optimization. So once you've done your right sizing actions, you want to look and see, hey, I know that this is going to be machine types that I'm going to be using for the next 1 or 3 years. So what's the best rate I can get? If I commit to these cloud service providers, are they going to give me an additional savings? And from there, you'll be able to see, is that going to be 10, 20, 30, sometimes up to 50% savings. And you can easily click and add the recommendations, and you'll see that green line come up to show what that coverage is going to look like compared to your on-demand usage, which is a nice way to visualize what your savings can be. The next chart, as I say over there, is going to be your cost comparison, just to show you what your daily cost will look like once you've made those optimizations. And that's easy enough for you to either save and export and send to the appropriate team internally, or if you just want to send it directly to your cloud service provider account manager, they can help you make those commitment purchases.
That's really exciting. And I just want to double down on the fact that if you look at the navigation here on the left-hand side, it appears that Ternary has feature parity across all these cloud providers. So AWS, Azure, Google rate optimization commitments, as well as across the insights pages, there are services supported for each of those cloud providers as well. So really excited about the continued investment in the product from that standpoint.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, so we've kind of done a recent exercise in making sure that we have parity across all of the major cloud service providers, to be able to get a consistent experience and make sure that customers are not focusing on just one or two. Since generally, I think we've seen that a lot of companies are running multi-cloud, just given that depending on what your workloads are, it may be a more cost-effective thing to run on one versus the other.
Great. So let's dive into the key takeaways, and then we'll open it up for some questions. So first and foremost, Ternary is a modern FinOps solution for both MSPs and enterprises. We have capabilities to support both stakeholders. And in fact, some large enterprises may also be particularly interested in acting as an MSP in the Ternary platform and utilizing that MSP console, especially if you have perhaps multiple subsidiaries or business units that you are managing with a central payer account, for example. Easy to use for technical and business personas. We touched on this a bit with the forecasting functionality, but Ternary is designed to support finance, FinOps teams, and engineering personas. There are several solutions out in the market that are more heavily skewed towards engineering and technical personas, but we're building our platform to make sure that it is easy to use and understand for all types of business personas. We just touched on the feature parity as well, but the ability to optimize cost and usage across all three leading clouds. As noted in the state of FinOps data, savings and reducing waste is still top of mind for many organizations. And fostering collaboration between teams with Ternary case management. I know we just touched on this briefly, and the case management feature is not new. We've had that for quite some time now, but that is a really great way for finance and engineering to flag different pieces of the platform to each other in data points and say, hey, AJ, could you take a look at these dozen recommendations for right sizing, and how many of those can we actually take action on? And many organizations are still not comfortable with automation, and that's why Ternary case management is a great workflow mechanism, especially for those companies who want to move down that path towards automation, but perhaps there are internal controls and regulations that prevent them from doing so. Lastly, bonus, all of that at a fixed price with no overages. Many solutions in the space do a charge of percentage of spend. Ternary is not doing that model. So just a fixed price model. You're already potentially surprised by your cloud bills. We don't want you to be surprised by ours. So we really pride ourselves on being straightforward and transparent with our partners and customers that we work with. And with that, we want to thank you for your time. We would encourage you to learn more, request a demo on our website. And with that, I'll take a look at the Q&A to see if we have any questions.